A once booming financial hub now descending into chaos. Police locked in a tense standoff with protesters at Hong Kong University. Fox News' Jonathan Hunt is on the ground with the latest. Jonathan.
Having worked our way through and around police lines on Tuesday, we spent much of the day on the campus of Hong Kong Polytechnic University, and the destruction we witnessed there was truly shocking. Take a look.
We're standing right now in the heart of the university campus, and all around us are the signs of what was a very intense standoff, the signs of what was a very violent battle. The barricades built by the students to try to hold back the Hong Kong riot police when they came in here over the weekend, and the evidence of the fires that were set by those students and the intensity of the flames. They believed that they could hold on for some time, but eventually water began to run out, food began to run out, and these students, for the most part, realized that their gesture was becoming increasingly futile. And today they have been giving up in large numbers, but they are not giving up the bigger battle for democracy.
Some 24 hours ago, around 100 students remained on the campus, but throughout Tuesday we saw them come out, sometimes alone, sometimes in pairs, sometimes in groups, always arrested the second they set foot off the campus. They were taken away by the Hong Kong police force. They face up to 10 years in prison if convicted on charges of rioting. Back to you guys.
Wow. Jonathan, thank you.
We are joined now by John Hanna, who's a former National Security Advisor to then Vice President Dick Cheney, and now at the Foundation for Defense of Democracy, where he's a senior counselor. So, early in this protest movement, John, we would ask people, we'd say, well, what's the role for the United States, understanding that there's complexities with U.S.-China trade discussions and the like, but it's been going on, for months now, and after what we've seen, especially the last 2 weekends, is there now a role, do you think, for the United States to play? And if so, what is it in Hong Kong?
Yeah, hi, Connell. Listen, there's not a whole lot the U.S. can do here, although the trade negotiations are clearly crucial. They're very crucial to China, which has been experiencing real economic difficulties as a result of this conflict with the United States. I think they badly need that deal, and the prospect that it could be killed by a massive military intervention to put down these protests in Hong Kong, I think might be one of the few things that is really staying China's hand here. So I think it's important that the United States continue to tell the Chinese leadership that whether we like it or not, a massive crackdown to see Tiananmen 2.0 occur in the streets of a westernized city like Hong Kong, that is going to make any kind of forward movement in the U.S.-China relationship very, very difficult.
And in the meantime, as you know, what we see, since we don't have that crackdown, and of course, as you point out, nobody's rooting for a terrible crackdown like that, we have the protest movement and the back and forth with the authorities dragging on. Hong Kong's economy has gone into recession in that time period. So then you start to wonder, if they're not going to brutally crack down even more so than they have, to just put it or, make it end, as you were talking about, then how will it end? What will happen?
It's very hard to know how this ends. Right now, it looks like a war of attrition. The battle for Polytechnic University looks like it's coming to a close. The only question is how violent it's going to be for those poor remaining holdouts on the campus. But the battle for Hong Kong, the larger battle for the future of Hong Kong, is going to go on. But right now, it's very hard to see where any political resolution of this would come from, because the Chinese Communist Party seems absolutely steadfast in not recognizing any of the legitimacy of the protesters' demands, and the protesters themselves look increasingly radicalized and will settle for nothing less than universal suffrage and taking control of Hong Kong's political future into their own hands.
Well, that's the last point. I think maybe we haven't talked as much about that, because obviously everybody's focused on the protest movement and the fight for freedom, and there's a lot of support for that in the United States. But the protesters did score a fairly large victory here in having that extradition bill taken off the table that they had pushed so hard for. So they won that part of it, and now there's a question about what would satisfy them. Do you have a sense of what their actual goal is right now?
Well, I don't know for sure, Connell, but I do think this question, at the end of the day, that there's been so much repression, they feel that very few of their political demands have been addressed by the Chinese Communist Party. They feel they just cannot trust China anymore, and therefore this ultimate question of universal suffrage for the people of Hong Kong to elect their own leaders and have control of their own political future is very much in play. But that becomes a very fundamental challenge to the legitimacy and authority of the Chinese Communist Party. And the whole question of one nation, two systems, is that still viable at all? And do the people of Hong Kong believe it's viable? I think they don't. So therefore, we're at a real standoff here. And how it gets resolved is really the $64,000 question.
It's really been spiraling especially the last 2 weekends. John, good to see you again. Thanks for coming on.